Well, I am using my laptop, my Macintosh, to record this. It seems the video is a little bit blurry, but it'll work. And I'm also at home, so I'm using a different sewing machine that you guys have, but it's very, very similar. So this will translate easily. We're going to learn how to paper sew without thread today. First thing you want to do is put your needle into the centered position. And I don't have your machine in front of me, so at the moment I'm trying to work off of memory. There's a button that puts in the centered position. There's a number. You'll have to look at your machine. You want your needle in the center, not to the left, because you're sewing on lines. If it stays in the left, I mean, it's not the end of the world. You just want the needle going on the line, not to the left of the line. So a little harder, but you can do it. Okay, so let's talk about this first page. This is just straight lines. Ta-da! So we're going to try to sew every single one of these staying on the line. Let's see if you can actually see this. I feel like you can. Maybe I need to prop this up on something. Here. I'm going to try to prop this up real quick. Hey! This might not work. Actually, that's not bad. Okay, we're also going to turn my phone on silent. You don't need to hear it binging. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to start by using the hand wheel. You always want to turn the hand wheel towards yourself, never away from yourself, because you can break it. And I want to get the needle into the machine, or I mean the paper. I'm sorry, I'm distracting myself as I'm trying to get a good angle on this video. So you just put the needle into the paper on the line where it starts. Then you put down the presser foot. You always want to put it down gently. You don't want to let it just drop, because eventually that can break it. We want these machines to work for a really long time. So this is going to go through without either one of my hands touching it when I put my foot on the pedal. See? But is it going through straight? No, you can see I'm veering off the line. So I'm going to take my hands and use them to direct myself back onto the line. So literally, you're just moving your hands back and forth like this, keeping it on the line. You don't have to push the paper through the machine. You don't have to hold on to it so it won't allow it to suck through the machine. In fact, if you hold on to it so it won't allow it to suck through the machine, one, it breaks the machine, and two, it'll make massive holes on your paper. So when you're finished sewing this line, if you see big old holes, stop holding on to it. Just let it suck it through and just gently guide it. See, I can just use my 2 fingers here to gently guide it, keeping it on the line. That's it. When I'm done, you're going to push the button that raises the needle. There you go. Lift up the presser foot, and you can take it out. You can take a look at your progress. You probably can't see that on the camera, but I stayed on the line. So I want everybody to start out. Again, put your needle in the paper on the line where it starts. Put your presser foot down. And I want everybody to start out on the slow speed. When you get comfortable and you're staying on the line really nicely, you're not pulling the paper, you're not holding on to the paper, then you can move on to speed number 2, the middle speed. Now, I tell my junior high students they're not allowed to sew on anything but the middle speed. High schoolers are allowed to go to the fastest speed, but honestly, there's no point to really sew at the fastest speed. So I suggest staying somewhere between the middle speed and between the middle and the fastest speed. So you're going to do every single line on this paper. Then you're going to move on to the next paper. These are corners. Corners are fun. So, well, here, first of all, is what it looks like. I guess I should probably move back a little bit. Oh my goodness, it's really hard to it's really hard to get this in the right place. You know, having a Chromebook propped up on the table. Ay, ay, ay. Well, it's not actually my Chromebook. I forgot. It's my Mac. So again, I'm going to start with the hand wheel towards myself, twisting it towards myself. My needle's in the paper. Now I'm going to put the presser foot down carefully, and I'm going to sew a straight line all the way to the corner. See, I'm not really, my hands are just helping to direct it. I'm not gripping it too tight, or I'm not pushing it through. When I get to the corner, I'm going to slow down a little bit. And I'm going to check. Yep, I am on the corner. So here's what you do. This is called pivoting. I got to the corner. I'm on the corner. I'm going to lift my presser foot, and I'm simply going to turn my paper. So now the line is facing the right direction, and then I'm just going to continue to sew again. So I'm going to go fast to get myself to the end. Slow down when you get towards the corner. I'm on the corner. Lift presser foot, leaving the needle in the machine. Put it down, and then sew again. So that is pivoting. Slowing down towards the corner. And with our machines, if you just push on the pedal once, it just goes one stitch. So keep that in mind when you're slowing down towards the corner. You can stop before you get to the corner and push on it one at a time to get to the corner if that makes it easier for you. So lift presser foot, turn paper, put it back down. Nice thing about these machines is the needle always stops in the down position, so it makes pivoting easy. Now keep in mind that when you have thread attached to this eventually, if you don't pivot right, you're going to screw it all up. And I'm not trying to say mean things about you screwing up projects by any means. I'm just trying to say there are all kinds of things connected now. So if you don't pivot right, the threads will all get tangled. So you want to practice your pivoting and do it right when you don't have thread in the machine. There we go. Lift the presser or lift the needle up with the button, and then you're going to lift the presser foot up, and we are done with this page. There is another page. You're going to see all of the practice pages. There's this one. There's no point in me doing this one right now for demonstration purposes because I think you guys understand pivoting. We are going to do some curves now. So let's do this page next. So you're going to start just like we have, putting the needle on the curve in the paper. Put your presser foot down. This time you're just going to move your paper back and forth as it curves. I'm going to tell you that when you get to really sharp curves, a smaller stitch length is going to make your life easier. Your machines are set to be on 2.5 as your standard stitch length. You might have to go down to 2, 1.5, maybe 1. But then again, the other thing with paper sewing, the closer your needle is, well, every time, I don't know if we've discussed this yet, but every time the needle goes into the paper, it goes at a specific length, that's stitch length. So it could be big length or it could be small length. So the smaller the length, the closer the holes are together. So if it's too small, you're basically going to cut the paper because it'll be so close together, it'll be like a cut instead of a bunch of holes in the paper. So we're just going to, again, I'm not holding on to the paper too tight. I'm just kind of guiding it through the machine. I'm going nice and slow. And this is not a tight curve, so it doesn't need the stitch length to be changed. So 2.5 is just fine. I do want to mention that when you guys sew projects with thread eventually, you're going to want to change your stitch length to 3 because if we need to seam rip, that's easier to seam rip out. So you'll have to start by changing your stitch length every single time you get to the sewing machine. And also when we're guiding regular projects, you will not be sewing with your needle centered, because all of the lines here that you guide to are based off of a left facing needle. But that's for another day. So lift the needle, lift the presser foot, and you may or may not be able to see that, but we went on the curve beautifully. So put your needle down on the curve, put your presser foot down, and then sew. So you're gonna go pretty slow to start out with, and yes, this is gonna get in the way right here, so you'll have to curve your paper up. Eventually, you can sew where you're staying on the line, nice and fast. Lift the needle up. Oh, apparently I pushed the back stitch button. Lift the needle up with the lift button. And there you go, there's a curve. Now we're gonna do the next one, and this is where it could get kind of tight in the center here, but we'll see as we're sewing. We won't turn the stitch length down until we see that we're kind of struggling to stay on the curve. So we always start the same way, putting that needle in the machine, putting your presser foot down. Now here's where I'm gonna have to curve this so it doesn't ruin my stitches because it's getting stuck. Fabric doesn't tend to do that, but it can bunch up if it gets too thick, like if you have too much fabric. There's special machines made for thick, too much fabric. They're called quilting machines, long arm machines actually. Generally, regular projects don't really have that problem. So you're just trying to stay on the curve, and I'm just guiding again. I'm not pulling, I'm not pushing. I'm just allowing the paper to suck through on its own. So continuing to curve. Now I'm struggling a little bit to stay on the curve because it is getting smaller. So I'm gonna go down to 2. That's definitely better. So I was at 2.5 and now I'm at 2. After a while of staring at the paper, the line seems to disappear. Optical illusion, of course. I guess it's not really a line, it's more like a curve. So I did not need to go past a 2 for my stitch length, but I did need to eventually change it. All right, needle up, presser foot up. There's our curve, beautiful. Then there's this guy too. Lots of pivots. We don't need to demonstrate this because we've already basically demoed it. Same with this. We've demoed curves. You'll do that one. You'll do this one. You'll do this one. And we're gonna demo this one. This one's fun. It's what do you call it? You know, when you're trying to go to each of the dots and it creates a picture, when you have crayons or a pencil and you're drawing your lines. So we're going to be doing that with pivoting. So we're going to start with number 1. Connect the dots. That's what it's called. We are connecting the dots. So I'm going to put my needle down on number 1. I'm going to angle myself towards number 2. And I'm going to sew. Oh, I'm going to go back up to a 2.5. I'm going to sew to number 2. See, I slow down when I get to number 2, lift my presser foot, turn my page, angle towards 3, slowing down when I get to the dot. There we go. Lift presser foot, pivot to 4. There we go. Lift presser foot, pivot to 5. All right, lift presser foot, pivot to 6. And of course, you might not be perfect when you get that angle because you don't have a line to follow. Just try your best. And eventually, when we sew real projects, you don't have lines to sew on. We guide, which we'll get there after we finish paper sewing with no thread and then eventually doing thread. And then we learn to guide. And then hopefully we'll get to our first project here real quick. So just all kinds of pivoting. I know at one point it tells you to stop. At number 12, it tells you to stop. So you don't go past number 12, then you find number 13, and it's a brand new set of lines. So you just keep following this all the way till you get to the very end, and you'll find that this makes a word. I'm not going to tell you what the word is because it's going to be so much fun to figure it out yourself. Okay. Not to be creepy, but that was kind of a creepy stare. So we are all done with the paper sewing demonstration. And perfect timing too, because a little toddler just woke up and looking at her from the camera. So that is all.